Episode 1: Shadows of the Past. Jasmine Huga's life was a tapestry woven with shadows and silence. She had two sisters, each a flicker of light in a home steeped in darkness. Their father, a man once vibrant with dreams, had succumbed to a deep-seated depression after the tragic loss of their mother. His grief morphed into something darker, turning their once loving home into a prison of fear and despair. Jasmine, the eldest at 16, often felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. Her sisters, Lila and May, looked to her for guidance and protection, but Jasmine was just a girl herself, grappling with her own fears. Their father would retreat into his room for days, a self-imposed exile fueled by the weight of his grief. The stillness of the house became oppressive, and when he finally emerged, it was like a storm bursting forth. The heavy thud of his footsteps reverberated through the rooms, a precursor to the rage that would soon follow. "Look at you," he would sneer, eyes dark as he pointed a finger at them. "You think you can do anything right? You're just a burden, draining what little life I have left." In those moments, Jasmine felt an ache deep in her chest, a pain that she could not articulate. She and her sisters would gather together in the small, dimly lit kitchen, wrapping their arms around each other, seeking comfort in the warmth of their shared presence. They were trapped, bound by their father's toxic words, and the feeling of hopelessness sank into their bones like a chill. As the nights passed and the fears grew, there were no stories to distract them, no comforting memories to pull from. Their reality was a relentless cycle of disappointment and fear. While the world outside continued as if nothing were amiss, their home felt like a cage, with each of them battling their silent screams. The walls bore witness to their father's unyielding contempt. He would pace, muttering under his breath, and when he finally erupted, Jasmine often found herself bracing for the onslaught. His rage was like a thunderstorm, unpredictable and violent, leaving destruction in its wake. A shattered vase here, a broken picture frame there. "Pathetic," he spat one evening, his voice low and biting. "You think you can change? You're nothing but ghosts haunting my life." Jasmine would stand frozen, clutching Lila's and May's hands tightly, feeling their heartbeats quicken with fear. The whispers of affection that should have filled their home were replaced with echoes of criticism. With every harsh word thrown their way, the hope of a kinder tomorrow faded like wisps of smoke disappearing into the void. School was no refuge, either. Jasmine and her sisters wore hand-me-down clothes, their appearance a target for the relentless bullying that began the moment they stepped into middle school. The taunts and jeers followed them like shadows, growing louder with each passing day. Jasmine tried to shield her sisters from the worst of it, but there was only so much she could do. "Just ignore them," she would say, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "They're not worth our time." But the words felt hollow, especially when the bullying escalated. Teachers turned a blind eye, dismissing their complaints as childish squabbles. Jasmine felt powerless, trapped in a nightmare with no end in sight. One fateful day, after a particularly brutal encounter, Jasmine reached her breaking point. She had tried to stand up for Lila, only to be met with a barrage of insults and shoves. As she lay on the cold bathroom floor, tears streaming down her face, something within her shifted. That night, as her sisters slept, Jasmine made a vow. She would no longer be a victim. She would fight back, not just against the bullies at school, but against the darkness that had seeped into their lives. She began to train in secret, using the old boxing gloves her mother had left behind. Every punch she threw was fueled by the rage and pain she had bottled up for so long. The next day, she confronted her bullies. "I'm done being your punching bag," she declared, her voice steady and fierce. The shock on their faces was gratifying. But Jasmine knew she needed a plan. She couldn't rely solely on her fists. She had to be smarter, more strategic. As the weeks passed, Jasmine honed her skills, learning not just to fight, but to outsmart her opponents. She gathered information, watching them from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. When the time came, she orchestrated her revenge with precision. One afternoon, she lured them into an abandoned alley, a place where no one would hear their cries. As they approached, Jasmine felt a surge of adrenaline. This was her moment. The fight was swift and brutal. She had prepared for this, and she relished every moment as she turned the tables on them, using their own tactics against them. "Remember this," she whispered, standing over them as they groaned in pain. "You'll never forget my name." With that, Jasmine walked away, leaving her bullies to wallow in their defeat. She knew she had crossed a line, but in that moment she felt powerful for the first time in her life. Returning home, she found her sisters waiting, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and admiration. Jasmine smiled, a dark glint in her eyes. "We're going to be okay," she promised, though deep down, she knew the battle was just beginning. The shadows of their past would not easily fade, but Jasmine was ready to face whatever came next. She was no longer just a girl, she was a warrior, and she would protect her sisters at all costs.